You are watching an ORACLOUD Plus Training as a Service video snippet. Snippets are concise, targeted tutorials explaining how to use, configure, integrate, deploy, and support Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications. Snippets are delivered via FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool. FAST is accessible via the web at www.oracloud.plus. No more watching hours of learning path style videos to get to the 5-minute snippet you need. Learn Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications in minutes, not hours. Hello and welcome to the Requisition Strategies video presentation. This video is intended for new Fusion Procurement Cloud licensees preparing to deploy the Purchase Requisitions application. It walks through 6 strategies aimed at improving the quality of an Oracle Fusion Procurement Cloud Purchase Requisition deployment. This video snippet, as with all OCP video snippets, can be found in FAST, our Fusion Application Support Tool. To request access to FAST, email ORACLOUD Plus at access@oracloud.plus. Please include your name and contact information in the body and set the title of the email to FAST Access Request. Okay, so let's get started. Here are 6 strategies or approaches that will help you or help frame your approach to deploying Fusion Procurement Cloud Requisition or Purchasing Requisitions application. First, procurement taxonomy strategy. Second, a sourcing efficiency strategy. Third, pre-negotiated content strategy. Fourth, a non-negotiated content strategy. Fifth, downstream communication strategy. And finally, one we've all heard for years, a requester empowerment strategy. So let's jump in. First, you'll want to have a procurement taxonomy strategy. So the basis of Procurement Cloud, one of the largest pieces of value, is to decrease unit cost. And so it usually goes something like, there's groupings of content, and they have an average savings rate so that we understand A, how much we can expect to save by sourcing these onto contract, and then they also have a related cost. So we understand what the cost is. It helps us set the business rules for what should be sourced. So that procurement taxonomy strategy supports the shop by category function, the request category selection. So if you were to use 55,000 categories as an unspec variant, you would have a lot of categories within your request category selection. And as a strategy, that's going to be difficult for empowering your users, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but you get the idea. Next up, your categories or your taxonomy. It also relates to selecting suppliers and sourcing, defaulting GL accounts either at the taxonomy header or end state levels, assigning buyers, commodity workflow, spend reporting, and also obviously your category team organization, hence your cost structure. The next strategy is sourcing efficiency. So the general principle here is that by driving ever increasing amounts of your repetitive spend into contract, that can result in more catalogs, which is highly or more efficient than every time we don't have a catalog reaching out to sourcing to perform a service. So this idea of driving sourcing efficiency, source it once, put it on a catalog, let requesters continually order it. Next up, pre-negotiated content strategy. So we really had this for years in terms of a local catalog or punch-out catalog. Fusion offers a couple different tools that helps accelerate that we want to consider. First, the idea of an informational catalog item. So that can act as a pointer to a reservation portal or even an internal policy. Next is the idea of a contract related or contract purchase agreement related smart form. So it's essentially a non-catalog request, but it links to a category, a contract or an agreement. So that allows auto generation of the PO. So there takes some strategy in terms of figuring out, oh, we have services with a lawyer, with an accountant. We're going to use all of this particular service on that particular agreement so we can structure it, driving more efficiency. And then lastly, there's this idea of using subsystem initiator smart forms. So if I have Bloomberg, I want requesters to request, but it's not really going to go to a purchase order. I may use that smart form to initiate the subsystem related to Bloomberg, related to facilities, related to security. You get the picture. So that's a pre-negotiated content strategy. Next up is a non-negotiated content strategy. So we hear all the time that we have these catalogs and everything else is the wild, wild west and it's completely custom. And while it is certainly not as structured as being an item in a catalog with a price and a quantity and specs, it can certainly be more structured. And so two of the structures that we really try to do or use is we try to create request forms with specific questions around them or used to initiate specific activities. So you can see a few of them here. Request a competitive bid. Well, that's just a non-catalog request, but we may be able to dress it up with some specific questions. Or requesting a contract, or ask procurement. So we kind of mix a few things there where we'd have a few different functionality or features within Fusion. We would have a purchasing line type of $0, so we know that's probably not going to result in any kind of material dollar-related order. And then we would allow just a free flex or a free form field to ask procurement questions. So we could get them on the clock, we could track it, we can measure it. All these strategies, you want to have good process and good measuring. And then there's information templates, etc. So those are some of the tools we can use to structure not negotiated content, meaning requesters requesting something that isn't in a catalog. But we also want to make sure that our business rules are clear and consistent. So that's a little bit of what we talk about with a non-negotiated content strategy. A little bit of what we just talked about, but in a larger sense, is the idea of a downstream communication strategy. So with the advent of Fusion and most newer modern applications, it's very easy to add additional data elements as questions on any transaction. So what you see here is downstream information. Fusion allows post-request transactional parties, so people in assets, people in projects, people in finance and accounting. They can add questions to the requisition creation process, which capture information required to allow those parties to complete the transaction without having to re-engage requesters, reapprove requisition, or then request additional audit project asset information. So you see some of that on the bottom here on the left. And then lastly, since the beginning of self-service requesting is the idea of empowering requesters. And one of the ways you do that is with a lot of downstream transaction information so that requester can act autonomously and doesn't need to call procurement or call assets or call payables to see if it's been paid, etc. So that's the requester empowerment strategy. So, are you ready for the next video? Do you understand what the 6 strategies presented in this video are and how to deploy them? If the answer is no, then either watch again or feel free to reach out to me directly. You can see here on the left, that's my email address, and I'm always available to answer questions. If the answer is yes, great, then maybe you want to watch more video. So you can go to our playlist out on YouTube by going to YouTube and searching on ORACLOUD Plus Inc. Or you can go from our website to the tool we call FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool, and you can access the full catalog of our Learn, Use, Configure, Integrate, Deploy, and Support videos online. So that's it for this tutorial. We hope you found it informative, and keep watching.